right, here's the obligatory disclaimer. None of these protocols and herbs that we will be discussing in the Elven Healing series has been evaluated by the FDA. Everything here is for educational purposes, as describing the historical uses of these methods. You are recommended by the FDA to continue to see your other doctor and to discuss these protocols before you use them. I have personally used these in my practice. Again, this is for purely educational purposes. Namaste. Mae Govannen, my Elven brothers and sisters, and welcome to episode 3 of Healing with Elven Medicine. Today is a unique little lowly herb that so many people actually consider just trash on their plate, and that is parsley, the lowly little parsley plant. Petroselenium crispum, the Latin name, because again, we always like to know the proper name so that we will find the correct plant. Now, for most people, parsley is that little sprig of green that gets put on their plate that they just throw aside before the end of the meal, and very few people actually eat it. But parsley is an amazingly powerful herb. I have used it extensively in my practice, and I think you're going to be surprised by the end of this video when I give you 3 case studies of what happened when I used it with our patients and how amazingly successful it was. All right, so let's get started. Parsley. While we're also talking about that, we're going to be talking about another one called marshmallow root. Not actually marshmallows, but marshmallow root that we often use in conjunction with parsley, as it seems to work with it as far as adding a soothing element to the healing. So let's go ahead and talk about it a little bit. All right, so parsley. I always like to talk about the history of a plant, what humans have been doing with it for years. It actually goes back quite a bit. It goes all the way back to the ancient Greeks. As far as the history shows, it was associated most often, it's really fascinating because it's such a life-giving plant, but to them and even English folklore, it was associated with death. It was supposed to have sprung from the blood of Archimaurus, whose name meant forerunner of death. Homer tells of a chariot horses being fed parsley by the warriors prior to battle in the hopes of making the animals more fleet of foot. So they thought that there was something very special about parsley that would make the horses faster. All right. Victors at funeral games, athletic contests, held in honor of a recently deceased person, for example, were crowned with parsley. All right. The saying, "to be in need of parsley," was their way of saying that someone was terribly ill and not expected to survive. It was never served at the dinner table like it is today. All right. So Greek gardens often had borders of parsley around it in rue. And it was said to help signify when an undertaking was in contemplation, when they were planning on doing something. All right. The Romans did not generally eat parsley either. But they did wear garnishes of parsley on their heads during feasts to ward off intoxication. I can tell you now it didn't work, but they thought it did. All right, English folklore, again, they associated it with death. For some reason, they had their own set of parables and stories, and it was often associated with a saying, Welsh parsley is a good physic. All right, Welsh parsley signified the gallows rope, the hanging man's noose, the hanging noose. Why they did that, I don't know, but they considered that good medicine. So fortunately, we don't do as much of that nowadays. All right, early medicinal uses of parsley. All right, Parsley, back with Pliny, he passed away about 79 AD, mentioned parsley as a cure for ailing fish and listed as a popular flavor for broths and sauces. So the Greeks were willing to eat it. The Romans not so much were willing to do that. Okay, parsley's history includes its use as an antidote against poisons. There is some truth to that, and I'll tell you about that here in just a minute. And one of our sources suggested that parsley's ability to counteract the strong smell of garlic as a possible source for this belief, because a lot of people thought back then people didn't realize that garlic was an amazing medicine, and we'll talk about that sometime in another episode. But they figure, well, if parsley could get rid of the smell, then it must protect you against poison, because they thought garlic was poison. All right, Nicholas Culpeper, one of the most famous herbalists of all time. He lived from 1616 to 1654, died relatively young. All right, he said that it brings urine and women's curses, which means kind of got them going if they were having problems. And that is very important what he said, because he was incredibly right, because parsley, bringing urine, parsley is a major diuretic, which means it makes you pee. And my 3 stories at the end here will amaze you with just how well it's able to do that, and how it can, parsley, the lowly parsley, can actually save lives. Okay, so, and it was also associated with being able to help bring on a woman's cycle when it wasn't working so well. All right, so what are some of the popular concepts of what parsley nowadays is able to do? Well, we know that taking parsley actually improves your blood sugar. So if you drink parsley tea, things of that nature, eat parsley, it actually can help control your blood sugar. Great for diabetics. Okay, it's also packed with nutrients. Parsley is extremely high in vitamin K, vitamin C, it's vitamin A. It's just packed with vitamins. It's absolutely wonderful. All right, it does, now according to the studies, okay, I'm just telling you what the studies show, it's been told to be able to prevent breast cancer and protects the blood vessels. Because it's a diuretic, it is able to actually improve kidney health, which is huge, absolutely huge. I'll tell you about that. And it can also benefit heart health. A lot of people don't realize that the heart, blood pressure, and the kidneys are all tied together, and they all affect each other when it comes to blood pressure and cardiac health. Okay, so it prevents tumors and also works with respiratory distress. Again, these are all studies that were done, independent trial studies done, and the data seems to indicate that it does prevent tumors, does seem to prevent breast cancer. It'd be amazing if people would just eat better, how much of the disease in Western civilization would simply go away. All right, again, it lowers cancer risks and boosts the immune system. Part of the reason why it probably helps fight cancer is because cancer is a systemic failure of the immune system. Almost everybody experiences cancer, though they may not realize it. It's just an errant cell. The immune system looks at that and goes, that's not proper, and gets rid of it. But when cancer takes over, it means the immune system was not working. I remember I had a patient years ago. She came in, a little old lady, and she said that she came and presented her complaints, and she said, well, I have cancer, but other than that, I'm very healthy. And I went, excuse me? And she said, well, my doctor told me that other than cancer, I'm very healthy. And I said, that's not correct. I said, the fact that you have cancer means that you are extremely unhealthy and your immune system has failed and you're having systemic failure. And she left, never came back, did not want to hear the truth. Okay, it also, as we just discussed, eases menstruation for women, and also for garlic, it helps freshen up your breath. All right. So let's go ahead, and there's so many more. It treats anemia. That's a huge thing that it does. Treats anemia, increases the metabolism, makes it easier for you to lose weight if your metabolism is increasing. So if you're interested in losing weight, you might want to eat some more parsley, drink parsley tea, capsules, tinctures, it comes in all many different forms. It enhances the digestion so that you digest your food better. It's great for skin care. It also has wonderful anti-inflammatory, which helps with cancer as well. And because of the menstruation as such, women have noticed that making parsley a regular part of your diet actually does seem to help balance the hormones out as well. All right, so we're going to talk about parsley, and we're also going to talk about here marshmallow root, which is Althea officinalis. Marshmallow root, I'll show a picture of it here. It's a pretty tough little root, but it's full of what's called mucilage, which is something similar to comfrey. In that way, it's very thick, sticky goo that's inside of it. The only difference is that goo is extremely soothing to the tissues within the body and very, very healing. It's often used for dry coughs and colds, for a dry mouth and saliva production if you're having problems with that. Great for bacterial infections, including bladder infections, which is extremely common, urinary tract infections, as well as respiratory infections, bronchitis and tonsillitis. It's great for that. It's wonderful for joint pain, for swelling and inflammation, digestive issues. See, all these different things, that's why it works well to combine with parsley. We rarely use an herb by itself. We sometimes will, but herbs tend to work better synergistically if they're combined with other herbs. And so while parsley works great by itself, it works even better with marshmallow root. Marshmallow root works really well, but in certain instances it works great when combined with another herb like parsley root. So we love to combine herbs in order to make them more useful, make them more efficient, and so forth. All right, so that's just the quick rundown on parsley, marshmallow root. I'll show some more pictures and such of that, but one of the biggest deals about parsley and why I recommend it so often to our patients is that diuretic quality that we talked about, the ability to make you pee. It's really quite amazing how many people can't pee, how many men have prostate issues and have problems urinating and things of that nature. It is a medical fact that 50% of all men with a spare tire around the waist will have prostate issues. And so it's very, very common. Women often have an issue with it, incontinence, and parsley root actually helps with that so that when they do urinate, they urinate more completely. A lot of women with incontinence, a lot of men with prostate issues, when they urinate, they don't completely void. And so they end up getting up all night long because they don't completely void, and so the bladder fills up more quickly, and then they have to go pee again. Parsley root helps with that. All right, so real quickly, I'm going to give you 3 case histories, and these are all case histories that I have personally experienced in my medical practice, and I have seen this wonderful elven medicine work before. All right, my first one was probably close to 20 years ago. And he was a man about 80 years old. He was the uncle of another patient, and his nephew said, please go see this doctor. What was this guy's problem? All right, he had edema. Okay, in other words, in his case, it was swelling around the ankles and such, and they had him on a very, very, very strong diuretic. And it's a type of diuretic, you learn about it in med school, that according to the rules, you're not supposed to be on this diuretic more than 3 months because it's what's called a loop diuretic. It's extremely aggressive, very hard on the kidneys, and it causes you to lose a mass amount of potassium, which of course can hurt the heart in other areas of the body as well. He'd been on it for years. I guess his other doctor went, well, he's 80 years old, might as well just keep him on it, and Lantus, it was just a horrible, horrible drug. Okay, so I'm sorry, Lasix is what he was on. And so he had been on it for years and years, and it was literally tearing him down. It was damaging his kidneys, damaging his liver, and so he wanted off of it. And he came to me and said, what can I do? He said, I am exhausted, because after a while, again, it was tearing down his body, and he was exhausted, tired all the time. And a lot of people would say, well, 80 years old, you're going to be tired. That is not the case. If you live a healthy lifestyle, you can be active your whole life. All right, so I looked over his medications, looked over his history, and it was like, okay, you'd been on this Lasix now for years, and that was just not appropriate. He was also on a big capsule or a pill, about this big, which was his potassium tab, because he was taking the Lasix, he was losing all the potassium, so he had to take potassium tablets to make up for what the Lasix was doing. All right, so he decided he wanted off. So I said, all right, if you want off of it, then, that is your medical choice. It's between you and your other doctor, but I will go ahead and give you a substitute since you're going to do it anyway. And I put him on parsley root and marshmallow. Okay, and it's basically 3 parts parsley root. Remember, a part is by weight. 3 parts parsley root by 1 part marshmallow root. And combine them. In his case, I gave them to him as a capsule. And I told him to take so many capsules a day. And in 2 weeks, he called me. And he acted like a little bit of a stinker. He was playing a joke with me on the phone. 2 weeks, and I also recommended eat a lot of bananas. Go ahead and eat more bananas to make up for the potassium. Well, about 2 weeks later, he called me, and I answered the phone, and he said, Doc, what did you do to me? And of course, it sounded very dramatic. I'm going, what could I have done to this guy? And then he started laughing, and he said, Doc, he said, I feel amazing. He said, remember, this is an 80-year-old. He said, I have so much energy, I want to jump over the back fence. So just by him taking something healthier, the edema went away, he was able to urinate just fine, the water retention left, and he felt so much better. Well, that's case history 1. Case history 2 was a tough case for me. This is a patient who came to me with prostate cancer. He'd had it for 11 years, and he was towards the end. His wife brought him in, and they were willing to do whatever it took to try to get over this. Well, we began treating him to help support his immune system, get his body stronger, and we are very blessed. The cancer went away. But in its place, because the cancer died so quickly and he was in a weakened condition, it backed up his lymphatic system, because he literally couldn't eliminate the dead cancer fast enough. And he ended up with a massive amount of edema. The worst case I've ever seen, from his ankles all the way up to under his armpit. He was like a waterbed. You could actually tap it, and it would just flow. All right, and just ripple. Okay, well, this is a very, very dangerous situation, so we put him on the parsley root and marshmallow root capsules. Only when it's a very dangerous, acute situation, meaning we got to treat it quickly, he was taking 5 capsules every hour. Every hour for about 10 hours a day, day after day. Okay, the results were incredible. He was non-ambulatory, he was in bed, and so what they ended up doing was they had to put a whole series of diapers on him because his skin literally sprung leaks. He started peeing, obviously urinating, but it literally was squirting out his skin. The body was relieving all the pent-up water, and within days it had all disappeared and soaked into they kept changing the diapers out, the cloth diapers kept changing out the sheets, and within days this life-threatening edema was gone with parsley root and marshmallow. He was very sick of parsley root and marshmallow by the time we were done taking the capsules, but it saved his life. Okay. And a last case history. A dear, dear friend of mine, she had stage 4 cancer. It was colon cancer, her appendix as well, and had gone to stage 4 and had completely filled her abdominal cavity up with ascites. These are pockets or filled up with water just throughout her abdomen. And she'd had some surgery where they had already removed some of her intestinal tract and left her with a bag hanging out, a colostomy bag. And we treated her, and because they had told her, you'll be dead in 6 months if you don't let us continue doing more surgeries, and she said no. And so they said, well, you'll be dead. Well, she came to us, and we took care of her, treated her immune system and such, and we're very blessed. The cancer went away. Stage 4, 0. It just completely disappeared. There were still a few ascites left of the pockets, and they said, so we started pushing. I started writing referrals to let's get this colon reattached because the colon wasn't sick anymore. And they fought and fought and fought us on it, saying, no, we don't want to reattach it. There's still a couple of little ascites in there. And they said, you'll just be this way the rest of your life. And I was not content with that. I said, no, that's not going to happen. So we put her on the parsley root and marshmallow. And within weeks, the ascites completely disappeared. She eliminated all the fluid from it. I wrote the referral, had her go back to the surgeon. The surgeon checked her out and said they were all gone. And they reattached a colon. And she was able to then go on without having a colostomy bag anymore. Parsley root. But parsley root and marshmallow as well. So anytime somebody tells you that that's just an icky piece of green that was put on your plate, you can let them know it is an amazing medication. I've been blessed to have been taught about its use, and I recommend that everyone, if they want to learn how to take care of themselves, Elven medicine, herbal medicine, I've seen miracles with it. All right, so that's it for this edition. I just want to also let you know something. We are in the process of moving. I've let others know that before, and we are moving as of with faith tomorrow. We're going from Northern California, and we will be resettling in the desert outside of Palm Springs down in Southern California. We're leaving our beloved Elven sanctuary up here, and we'll go create another one with faith down south. But we're leaving because of the wildfire situation up here. Humans are just getting worse and worse with it, so it's time for us to go. So I'll be out of pocket for a few days, but we're all goes well with faith. We're getting in the car tomorrow, and we're heading down to Palm Springs, where we'll start over again down there. All right, so I look forward to talking to all of you down there, and we'll continue with our videos, and I'll kind of take you of a tour of our little space down there. All right, all of you have a most blessed and gentle Elven day. Namaste.